So, and then I'm gonna do all of the. I'm gonna get a small table to go there.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Lads on Tour. This is the show, a bi-weekly show where four friends dig into their pile of shame, which is basically media that we've missed out on and have terrible shame about, and then create a list to work through it together. We play, watch, read, listen, eat, smells, anything, any way we can get this into our bodies.
Smells,
Things,
please.
each item on the list, and then come together right here on twitch.tv/lads on tour crew to talk about our experiences. If you're watching live on twitch.tv/lads on tour, you can tell us what you think of the subject matter for this episode, which is fully coolly, and throw questions our way, and we'll do our best to read them out and answer them as much as we can. If you aren't able to tune in live, hopefully you can check out the episode on youtube.com/lads on tour, provided there are no more DMCA or copyright strikes. There's no crew in that URL, but there is for twitter.com/lads on tour crew, which is where you can go to follow us. If you're not following us on Twitch already, please hit that button, hit the bell, do whatever it takes, And then, of course, we're on podcast services, including iTunes, Spotify, and any other podcast service that you can chuck some text into and search for us. If you're listening there, please rate and review us. Super helps us. We're still a very, very small crew of lads on this tour, and we'd love to grow, and we're able to do more cool things and make a bigger community.
Think how cool
this
it would
week
be to actually do tours, like actually take the
an
lads
actual
on tour.
That would be so good.
That's the end goal. That's the dream.
Yeah, but we can only realize that dream if we grow a bit more and then invite capitalism into our fold.
We can try and time it with no clips bus tour that they're doing.
Yeah, so we're basically
the supporting act.
Yeah, that would be amazing. This week is going to be an exciting week because we've done a movie, we've done music, we've done a game, I believe. This is finally the first anime, and despite what Jake says on his hat,
despite what his hat says,
anime was a mistake. We all know anime is a glorious thing. And we are going to be talking about Fooly Cooly, or FLCL. What does Fooly Cooly mean?
I don't know. I watched the whole thing and I can't tell you.
Yeah, no one said.
Watched all 6 episodes.
So first of all, introductions, of course. I'm Timur, saying the host. I haven't come up with anything specifically. I'm going to say I'm a baseball bat. We're also joined by Jake Decker.
Hello.
Who is a very loud Vespa.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
We also have Lucy James, who is spicy bread.
I'll take that. I mean, I'm the most vanilla person probably here, but I'll take spicy bread.
And we have special guest Jean-Luc Seipke, who is sour drink.
No,
a nice sour drink. Oh no, wait!
He's electric guitar.
For context, electric guitar. I was gonna say I love sour drinks. That's why I gave Jean-Luc sour drinks.
Yeah, I like a good sour drink. Yeah.
What
you
is
might be
a sour
wondering,
drink? Like what?
Like in the show, he's always like,
grapefruit
I hate
juice?
sour. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, grapefruit juice is good, but like in the show, it's carbonated as well, right? I
Oh.
assume. And I love sour carbonated drinks.
I love sour things, but I don't think
Yeah.
I've had a drink that I can be like, that was a sour drink that I just had.
Yeah, I guess so.
Whiskey sour? It's not really
Yeah,
sour.
there you go. Maybe I've had like
Sure.
carbonated apple beverages that are quite sour. You may be wondering where Zach is. Zach was one, unavailable. He's been going through it lately. He's been busy. But also two, Jean-Luc is a big fan of Fooly Cooly. So we thought it'd be a great opportunity to bring him in. I think the plan originally was to at some point bring Jean-Luc in anyway. So this worked out nicely. So here we are. We're going to be talking about it. So first things first, Fooly Cooly. What is it? Fooly Cooly is an OVA, which is an original video animation Japanese, directed by Kazuya Tsurumaki, I think it is, and then written by Yoji Enokido, I believe it was. And it was animated by Production IG and Gainax. And then there's music from what's the name of the band?
Pillows.
Hello.
The Hellos. Okay, yeah.
Oh,
Hello.
man. We'll talk about that in a bit because I loved that.
Yeah. It's a 6-episode series. It was originally released in 2000, I believe it was, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes.
And there was a manga, there was a novel, and all these other kind of things. In the UK, I think it showed up on Toonami.
It feels like a tsunami.
Yes.
It was
and
Tsunami here as well.
was
I'm
it?
pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay. I think I read it was Adult Swim, which I guess is a Toonami thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Toonami is part of Adult Swim. So
Yeah. So, and then since then, there's been a few more seasons of it, and there's one, I believe, coming again, another one. But this is we watched the 6 episode original run. I watched it on Hulu. Where did you guys watch it?
Hulu.
Hulu.
I think
Funimation.
Oh. But yeah, it's leaving Hulu in like 10 days.
Yeah, I got a message the other day when I logged in to watch more, and it was like expiring in 10 days. I was like, oh god.
Well, it's probably leaving Funimation too because they're canceling that entire subscription
Yeah,
service.
they're folding
Because
it
like what
in.
Sony owns it now. They own
Yeah, so
Crunchyroll,
they're just merging
Funimation.
everything to Crunchyroll, which is great because my TV doesn't have a Crunchyroll app, but it does have a Funimation app, so I don't know what I'm gonna do
Wow,
with that.
my TV has neither of them. I just use the PlayStation, and let me tell you, it's bad.
Well,
Every
The
single one.
the Xbox Crunchyroll app is weirdly better than the PlayStation one. I don't
Ooh,
know
maybe-
why, but that's my insider
All
tip.
right,
It's
switching
good
Xbox.
we didn't have to push this episode back any further because I wouldn't have
It would've
watched
been
it
gone.
otherwise.
Yeah.
It was pretty cheap. I think to like rent on iTunes or whatever,
Oh, okay.
or on Amazon.
Yeah, I would have found another way, but I will
Yeah.
say I don't use Hulu much, and good lord, does Hulu cram in so many fucking ads
Ads.
into
Oh
every...
my God.
You pause it and there are ads covering the screen like every 2
Yeah.
minutes.
IBM
there's 3
ads
minutes
everywhere.
ads. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I was
I pay for Hulu.
I pay-
'cause
yeah,
how
I
else-
pay
for
how
it.
else am
No,
I
no,
gonna
no, I
watch
pay
my
for Hulu.
trashy?
Yeah, I pay
my
for Hulu
trashy.
too.
you pay for Hulu to get access to Hulu,
Yeah.
and then you have to pay more to get
Oh,
no
no.
adverts.
So I
Yeah,
get it
I
with
have no
Spotify,
ads.
which is like gives you the shit version of Hulu.
They give you the shit version.
the
I got
worst.
the weird. I think it's like it's like a Disney combo where they give you like
Oh,
Disney
yeah,
Plus.
yeah,
and
That's
they give
what
you,
I
like,
got, yeah.
Hulu, and yeah,
Yeah.
and I got the ad-free version because I was really sick of watching ads on Futurama episodes, and I just wanna keep those rolling.
Yeah,
you
I'm
know?
close to I was close to buying the upgraded tier, but there's not much. I'm watching X-Files on this, so maybe I'll get there where I want to watch it. But yeah, before we get into, I think it makes sense for this show specifically to talk about our kind of opinions on it and what we thought of it before we get into some of the context and production, because I feel like that might help reframe some of what, depending on how you feel about it, make you feel rethink your words and deeds, as it were. Jake, what did you think of it?
I knew you'd pick me first.
You're at the top of my screen.
I was gonna say you're wearing the anime hat.
I'm
It's your own
wearing the
fault.
anime hat. Sorry, one sec. Hold on, sorry.
Okay, he's got
Does
to
he-
run.
Does he just not want to
Lucy,
talk about anime?
He's like, I think he's either doing a goof or like he shit himself, and he's now trying to like. Oh! We have got a surprise guest. I did not expect that at all. It is one Kallie Plagge. Kallie, noted anime expert, noted expert of all things Japanese. One time part of the IGN Anime Club podcast, which is where I first encountered Kallie before we became very, very good friends. Kallie, what do you think of Fooly Cooly?
Well, it was really fun watching with Jake because I had to explain so many things to him, and I don't think he remembered any of them, so that's why I'm here.
Fantastic.
I had already watched it, so I was rewatching it, and I found it a little easier to follow on a rewatch because if you don't speak a lot, I don't speak Japanese. I can read Japanese a lot better than I can listen and hear or speak, and it's really hard to follow a lot of the jokes. And I don't know what you guys talked about before I joined because I was just like hiding over in the corner. But it was interesting having more context, and then also being like, oh, that's the onomatopoeia for kissing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps you understand what's going on, but that's a fun fact.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it is. It is really interesting. It's very, very, very Japanese. Like there's things like I think Lucy probably you were like, why are they repeating this word over and over again at each other? And that is because and that's largely because like the intonation and tone that they deliver that word changes what the meaning of that word is. So it's like what they end up doing is yes and word association. So like it's each time they say like chu or furikuri or something like that, it's a different joke.
Yeah.
What was the other word? There was like peon or something.
Pyong.
Pyong. And I was like, I think that's the one where I got it. But in some other instances, I definitely did not. And I was like, what's happening there?
How would you define pyong?
It's hard because if you don't understand that Japanese has like sentence endings, that can change the tone of the sentence and depending on the speaker. That's the first thing you need to understand. And Pyong was really popular in like the 80s.
Yeah,
and
80s
like,
and some of 90s, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's still kind of like it lives on through like character archetypes now.
But
it's basically like a sound that is designed to give personality to the way you speak, and it's like cutesy kind of girls use it. It's kind of pyong is like a bouncy effect to it. Like you'll constantly see. I bet you if you searched pyong, you'd find like a picture of a girl dressed as a rabbit.
How do you spell it?
Pyon.
yeah, it's like a rabbit.
Oh yeah, it's literally
Yeah.
cute girls, rabbit ears. She's got like pink and black stripes.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh, she's from Hunter and Hunter. Oh no, this is a character literally named Pion.
Oh, okay,
from
there you
Hunter.
go. Well, it perfectly kind of like exemplifies it because that's the kind of like if you end a sentence with like pyong, that is like signaling to the audience or the character like this girl has like or this character has a anime kind of like archetype, which is cutesy bouncy girl.
Well, I also found this that I'm going to put in the chat, which I think
no.
also. No, it's not. It's nothing rude. It's nothing rude.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of rude. Oh, yeah, it's Elden Ring, the 2 fingers.
What? No, it's just a guy. It's just a guy with bunny ears.
But yeah, Kallie, what's your kind of history with Furikuri? Do you remember when you first watched it, and what was do you remember what you took away from it back then?
Yeah, I watched it for Anime Club. We would do something called Watch Party where we would watch like 2 episodes of a show each week, and the audience could watch along, and we would like people would submit questions and we would talk about the episodes. So we did that with a couple Gainax things. We did that with Gurren Lagann, which I watched before Fooly Cooly, even though it was made after. And we did Fooly Cooly, and I remember being confused.
Yeah.
But I really liked the Pillows soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, you know, because I love Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I know that the team was required to watch Fooly Cooly when they were making that show. And there's stuff that I have rewatched The Last Airbender recently, and so watching Fooly Cooly, I was like, oh, I can really see, like you can see a lot of Naota and Aang, and you can see that influence. You can see like a lot of the movements, especially when they are in a fight, being influenced by Fooly Cooly. So that was really cool. Like I didn't know that the first time I watched it, so watching it this time, knowing that was like I was able to pick out the influences, and that made me appreciate it more because obviously Fooly Cooly was like really experimental at the time. I think if you didn't watch anime from before that time, like a lot of anime from pre-2000 era, it would be like, yeah, this is just like, this is very anime. This is just like a lot of anime has these kind of wacky, big animations where things are stretched weird and really dramatic. But as I was explaining to Jake when we were watching, I was like, they didn't really do this. Like,
this is it's interesting that this was like a rebellious answer to how anime actually is. And what's interesting about it is like when you ask people who aren't super familiar with anime or progression or anime or history of anime, they would say they would describe anime like this, where actually this was like a angry, frustrated response to how boring anime had become, which is like really fascinating to me.
Yeah, and
That's really interesting. That gives me like a whole other level of appreciation for it. Not that to say that I didn't like it. It was just like it's so different to what I expect from anime.
yeah. Yeah, and like the creator specifically, you know, the Gainax was coming off of Evangelion. They had done His and Her Circumstances in between that and a couple other things, but Evangelion being so somber and serious, it was just like a complete reversal. I know the creator was like really obsessed. One of the Gainax employees had a yellow Vespa, and he was like, I don't have a reason to buy one. And then he was like, well, what if I made it a prop in my show? Then I would have a reason to buy one. Like there was just a bunch of like, he just wanted to do stuff. He liked the pillows.
Wait, is that the Vespa that's in the outro?
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
Yeah, and like like he wanted to use the pillows. He really liked them. Anime didn't really use rock bands like that. Even as now you would think of like anime intros are done by like Japanese pop and rock bands all the time. Like it was just not like that. So it's important having that context, especially because at the time when FLCL came out, like it was a lot harder to watch anime. So if you weren't watching a lot of anime or don't know the history of anime from that time, watching it is just like it's just the most capital A anime I've ever seen in my life because it shaped the way anime and Western animation too came after that. I know like the Steven Universe creators were really influenced by it.
Sure.
Yeah, so that was information I didn't have the first time I watched it. It was just kind of like going in straight, and we were like just doing a Gainax. We were just going at it from like a Gainax perspective. We did a lot of Gainax stuff on Anime Club. This time I did a lot more research, and I appreciated that more. And I also understood a joke about kanji that I didn't understand the first time I watched it. That I had to explain. I was like, Jake, pause it. And he was like, we don't have time to pause it. I was like, okay, the next Hulu ad break, I'm going to show you this kanji and explain why that's funny.
Amazing. Yeah. Lucy, what did you think of it?
Also, can I just say that I'm distracted because my cat did a diabolical shit just before the show.
Same.
And no, she's like running around and I can see a little bit of poop on her butt. Like, if she
do you want to just go get her poop?
Can I? I'm not gonna turn my camera off in here. I'm gonna turn my camera off here so I can I have white sheets. I'm just really nervous about it. So I'll come back.
Let's go to Jean-Luc. Jean-Luc, what did you think of the show, FLCL?
Yeah, kind of a similar history, I guess, with Kallie, where like I watched it. I want to say like 2005 or something. So after it already had aired, but it was like a rerun on like Toonami or Adult Swim, and then so I remember like at the time really loving it, but also like not understanding any of it, but more just being it's like a baby sensory video almost, where you're just like cool things are happening on the screen, and I am entertained by them. Yes, exactly. And you're like, this is entertaining. And obviously, like, the soundtrack and stuff, like the pillows are, was re-watching it now. In particular, the pillows was like, oh yes, I miss music like this. Like, I immediately went and like grabbed them on Spotify and just started listening to them because I was like, oh my god, I miss like that early like 2000s like rock. It's so good.
It's the kind of music that makes you feel cool listening to it.
Yes.
And it's the kind of music that you feel cool knowing that other people aren't listening to it. And that's like, it's the same way like you watch, and that's a unique thing for anime, where like anime being a kind of pipeline to the kind of like not a lot of people listen to watched a lot of anime when I was growing up, but even fewer would listen to music inspired by or that used bands that were in the anime. Like while everyone else was listening to like all these other like The Killers and stuff like that, I was listening to like Asian Kung Fu Generation, and like everyone else is like, oh, we love The Killers. Like 80 different people around me at college were like, oh, Killers are so good. I'm like, none of you are listening to what I'm listening to, and I'm cool because of it. And that's what like this band makes you feel like, and that's what I miss as well. Like listening to the soundtrack and this, I was like, I remember that I remember being snobby like that back in the day.
I love
it's funny that
The Killers as an example.
I think The Killers are one of the most annoying bands of all time.
Well, because Mr. Brightside has been at the top of the UK charts for like 20 years or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's even worse for you. It's always playing.
As someone who loves the Killers,
love The
I don't
Killers.
necessarily disagree with what Tam is saying. Also, like you're not wrong. It's funny though, like you say that. I feel like that's how anime also felt like back in that day as well, where like everyone's like watching all this other stuff, and you're sitting there being like, you're that person in the corner of the room who's like, they have no idea about Fooly Cooly, they don't understand.
They're watching the OC. They don't know.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's not disparage the OC. I'm a huge
come
OC
on.
fan.
Yeah, they're all watching Dawson's Creek or whatever, and you're like, nah, man.
That's more like it.
Yeah,
Let's talk
screw
about
you,
Fooly Cooly. But no, it was really fun rewatching it, and kind of what Kallie was saying, we're like having, because I didn't watch any other Gainax stuff when I had first watched Fooly Cooly, so watching it now and seeing all of like the Gainax isms, even for like stuff that like hadn't come out yet, like there is a I forget the name of the character, but the character who has the giant rifle in I think it's like episode 4 or 5. I was like, oh, that's just what's her name from Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a her character design also reminded me of a character from Die Buster, which is another Gainax OVA. You could just see like all the interesting like influence, like a lot of the comedy style. I don't know if there's any exact crossover with the writers. I would be fascinated to know, but a lot of like the pervy humor reminded me a lot of Panty and Stocking, which is another excellent Gainax produced thing. So I would love to, because Gainax is, when you think of Gainax, you think of like, oh, there's the Evangelion, and then there's like the people that went to go to Trigger, but I know there's like so many aspects to what Gainax was, and I would love to see like which specific people kind of went on to different projects. But yeah, I mean, I don't claim to like understand Fooly Cooly necessarily anymore than I did back then. I think I get certain jokes now, or at least like understand that, like where before it was like I have no idea what's happening. This is like I still don't know what's happening, but I feel like I at least have like a understanding of what they're trying to do, or like I'm like, okay, I get that that's probably like a specific Japanese joke that I don't exactly get, like they're making a reference to a particular piece of pop culture or a person, you know, you're like, I don't know who that name is, but then they'll say like, you know, a more contemporary name or like an English name, and you're like, oh, I get that one. I understand that person.
Paul McCartney. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were like listing off a bunch of people, and I was like,
Jimi Hendrix.
And they're like, Jimi Hendrix. I'm like, yes, okay, I'm back on board. But I don't know. It's like, I think what makes it so fascinating is, despite the fact that it's like extremely Japanese in its like humor and its references, is that you can still just appreciate its energy, having not understanding any of that, because that's what I love about it. Is I just love the energy of that show and its pacing and just how fucking weird it is. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into some of the like weirder aspects that I imagine some are maybe like a little contentious depending on how you feel about it. I'm very curious to see how everyone else feels about that stuff.
So, Lucy, what did you make of it?
Crisis averted, by the way. Get a pet, they say. So I had like weird feelings about it because I am not that familiar with a lot of anime. Like I've seen a few here and there. So like for me, a lot of stuff just went over my head, and I felt like I was barely holding on to what the actual plot was while I was watching it. There are things that I really liked. I think like the music especially. I love the way that it just kind of would shift. Like Yuan Song in the chat is just like, yeah, or like the time it just randomly went to South Park animation or like different animation styles and stuff.
Georgia, this is the first time she's seen it. She lost her mind. She's like, what is happening?
When I saw the
She
South
did not
Park thing, I was like,
There's like way more than that. There's like there's a whole like there's one scene, I think episode 4, where it's just a straight up John Woo reference for a few seconds.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like, it's very referential of like pop culture of that time.
Yeah. And that, like, I think the thing that I really loved as well, it's like only 6 episodes, a lot happens, and yet I think it's episode 3 or 4, they're like, okay, well, this girl cheated and now she's the lead in the play. We have to take time out to talk about this. And then it kind of goes back to robots coming out of a kid's head. I feel like I understand it now that I have like the cultural context, the context of how it changed anime, but also like shout out to whoever maintains the Wikipedia page because that is a very good and succinct summary. What's the deal with the guy's eyebrows?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
the Mori.
Yeah.
he doesn't have eyebrows.
Oh, so they
for,
like Stan
like,
Sitwell ones
so
from Arrested
yeah,
Development.
Yes.
yeah, he puts like seaweed
Right.
on his eyebrows.
Right.
It's just a joke. Like,
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I'm sure it represents something, but
I
yeah.
think
So this is
he alludes to it blocking the influence of
so like for
yeah,
him, like,
Haruko, so-
because he had a run-in with Haru as well before, because he begs her like, why am I not enough? And as like Naruto uses like the bandage on his head, he probably does eyebrow stuff to keep it all in. So I think that's how it works for him.
Gotcha. But I
Yes.
love the outro music. Oh my god.
outro
It's
music is so good.
so good, yeah. So Furikuri surprisingly is a series from my list of shame. So I had never seen it before.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I thought it was. I thought you were suggesting it to Jake because Jake was
Yeah.
like anime.
yeah. So
Oh, I
it was
didn't
from my list of shame, and I put it forward because Jake was like, Jake hadn't obviously not seen any anime, or like a very not this
Not-
anime.
not a lot of anime.
But like yeah, he doesn't watch anime. He in public anyway. But so I was like, let me pick the most anime for Jake to experience, and he definitely got that. I'd seen like a bit of it back in the day. I just never came back to it. I never finished it, and I remember being like, this is insane. What is going on? And I'm super happy that I didn't watch it until now, because I would never have appreciated any of this back in the day. Like, I wouldn't say I love it, but I think I get it now.
Yeah.
And I would not have been able to get it back in the day.
Yeah.
So like for like contextual stuff, this is done by Gainax, who, as we mentioned earlier, and Production IG, but like Gainax is the important thing. They did Neon Genesis Evangelion with Arno-san back before they did this, and there was a lot of discussion around understanding Evangelion because it's slow and pondering, and you really had to think about it. And the team that made this came off of it, and they were kind of annoyed by that. They were like, "We want something. Let's make something that's smart." But like isn't slow and like navel gazy and like in the same way that Evangelion is. So that's the result of this. Is kind of like the anti-Evangelion, where like Evangelion is profound and pretty amazing in a lot of ways and makes you have like various existential crises. And Furikuri is the same. Like it makes you have an existential crisis, but it does it in a different way, where it's like if Evangelion represents like the kind of depressive phase of like who am I, what am I supposed to do in life, Furikuri is like the chaotic side of it, where nothing makes sense to you and everything is confusing. And it's kind of like, I think the intention for them was to make it as like head-spinningly weird as possible, to kind of reflect how you feel as a child trying to understand your place in the world and dealing with like puberty and maturity. Because one minute you're like, you're trying to be cool and keep it, like Naruto is always Naruto has an image of what it means to be mature, and it's like, don't say too much, look kind of stern, dress a certain way, and keep quiet for a lot of it. But then like he also laments the fact that his life is so boring and there's nothing going on, and he can't see any of the world out of it, not realizing like he is himself causing that. He's acting in a way that's very plain and boring and reserved. And then obviously Haru comes along on her Vespa and smacks him in the face with a guitar, and then he's spending his time with his brother's ex-girlfriend. His brother has left Japan and gone to America to become a baseball player, and his girlfriend Mamimi is like weird around him. Like she's very like, she seems to be taking a lot of the affection that she had for his brother and just putting it on Naoto, like hugging him and kissing him in romantic and like sexual ways, and this kid is not capable of understanding how to deal with it. And at the same time, he Haru comes along and it's like this reveals herself to be a intergalactic space cop that's like some sort of weird, like looking to stop. She's looking for something, and it kind of pushes on Naoto that there's a world outside, and she represents this exciting X factor. So he obviously starts feeling stuff for her, and so you got this kid who's like, "What the fuck? I've got this lady here who is not my girlfriend, but I kind of am attracted to her, like all over me. And then I've got this other woman here who's like a fucking stick of dynamite and is now living on the bunk above me. And like I'm like starting to feel something for, and it's confusing for him, right? And he doesn't understand it. And that's why it's like there's a lot of like phallic symbols with like there's a lot of sexual innuendo.
Oh yeah.
And the whole thing with like horns emerging out of him is his attempt to like it's
Not me, it's the horn.
Yeah, it's like one, it's represents him becoming horny, but also it represents how he kind of like deals with his own mental health, because he's in the early episode, like he pushes it back in and he's like, oh, I guess I just need to push it back in and keep it there. And it's like that's how his understanding comes to of how to deal with his issues. And it always erupts at some point with a fucking weird robot emerging out of him, and like suddenly there's a massive fight happening with, you know, intergalactic robots, and there's a corporation that is like represented by a giant iron which is trying to smooth out the universe, and like they make it like an analogy to like what is their objective, and the whole thing is like, you know, they're trying to smooth out the brain of people so people aren't thinking and that kind of business. And it's like really fascinating. It's like so layered, and there's so many themes in it that you can sit down and watch it and be like, that was weird. And it's like it's colorful and loud and funny at times, and it's like just a bit of a popcorn anime. But if you like really stop to think about it and keep watching it over and over again, you can like take a lot away from it. And I think that's probably why it's gone down as like quite beloved, especially in America. I feel like this is one of those shows that defined the Toonami Adult Swim generation.
Oh yeah.
Like I feel like there's a lot of American or Western kids that probably felt something profound watching this. How was? Do you remember? Did you guys have any kind of like context for how it landed at that time in this part of the world?
I don't remember it at the time. I know that like it was syndicated on Toonami, and it like kind of just became a cult hit from there, and they would run it a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it at the time. I was probably a little too young, honestly.
Yeah, I get the feeling that this is. You remember when you first watch it? You watch your first anime, and then you realize, oh my god, like this is a world that I never knew existed. Like, and I feel like this is one of those shows where you watch it and you're like, oh my god. It also, what I love about it is watching it kind of reminded me why I like anime. It's just like completely irreverent, and it looks like a mess of narrative, but like that's kind of the point. Like this is described. The show is described as one of the anti-narrative shows, where it has themes and where it has like a emotional through line in every episode, but it is genuinely just people who are like freewheeling it, spitballing it, and just going with whatever comes, and then just cross-referencing it with the theme and making sure that it's hitting that. But otherwise, like it's all nonsense. And yet at the end of it, you still come away with an understanding of what they were trying to say without it being like spelled out to you in a way that anime does modern. Like even anime that I love, like Naruto, for example, like it really hits you over the head over and over again with its themes. And when that's not enough, it will tell you outright what you should feel in a moment. Whereas this is like, here's all this shit, unpack it at your leisure.
Yeah.
That was something I was gonna just say, like that is something I do remember when I watched it in like the mid 2000s, was that it was probably the first anime I saw that felt like this is clearly made in another country and has a like creative vision that you can't find anywhere else. Because my introduction to anime for the longest time was like the 4Kids like translation stuff, like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh!
Jelly
And
donuts.
you know, and
Yeah.
stuff where like they were actively trying to hide as much as possible
Mm-hmm.
that this was made in another country, to the point where as a kid you didn't know. Like
Right.
I genuinely like didn't think that Pokemon was Japanese. I didn't know that because I just was like, oh, here's like a cartoon for the thing. And then like, you know, eventually it kind of picked up like, oh wait, these are actually like imported from another country.
Mm.
But even then, like I would say like things like they were, you know, so sanitized in the
Yeah.
way they were translated and stuff. And then it was like even stuff like Cowboy Bebop, you know, which I remember actually which one I watched first. Probably Fooly Cooly, I want to say. But like Cowboy Bebop, like you know, being so much better in quality than maybe something like say the Pokemon anime, still was, you know, I would say
What a
had
hot
like
take
a
that is.
I
Damn.
know, right?
Cowboy Bebop is
Crazy.
better than the 4Kids
Ooh.
Pokemon
Yeah.
anime? Damn.
Not better than Yu-Gi-Oh though. Yu-Gi-Oh slap. That was
Wow.
that's peak anime there. But Cowboy
That's
Bebop,
fair.
I would say, does have a more of like a traditional structure until it doesn't after a while. But where like Fooly Cooly, I remember just at the time being like, it was just these conversations where you're like, what is this? Like just like it's I don't know, like it just opened up this like world of like you can do what with like animation? Like this
Yeah.
is what an animation can be. And I remember like it kind of like opening the floodgates for like just more stuff to like come in and you know like oh there is an audience for this kind of stuff and Americans actually do like things that are more you know creative and weird and not just like I don't know the most sanitized anime. What's the easiest like anime that we can take to just like Americanize as much as possible?
Yeah, I think this really represents like one of those the time when I remember just looking for anime and like just seeing what was out there and just trying everything. These days, like a new anime is announced and you can usually basically put it in a genre and then trace the influence back.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know, Demon Slayer comes along, everyone loves Demon Slayer, and then you're like, yeah, I know how we got to Demon Slayer. I can trace the lineage of Demon Slayer very easily.
Yeah.
But like there were a time when you'd like watch an anime and be like, what is this? And like this is one of them. This kind of reminds me a lot of like there's a show called Beck, Mongolian Chop Squad, which is just like it's a very strange, very atmospheric show about a band, just a band, and like the interpersonal relationships between the people in this band. And I remember it being, it's like very somber at times, and it's the main character is like also coming of age at the same time as being in this band. He just happens to be talented at like playing guitar and singing. And like he starts to have feelings for one of the other members, and it's like very, very similar in that when you're young, you kind of watch it and you're like, okay, that was an interesting thing, and then you realize later on how like profound it was, and you start unpacking it in your time off and away from it, and it becomes one of those important shows, which it feels like it has for a lot of people. So I'm reading from the chat, and Serious Business Maria says, I felt really stupid watching this because I didn't understand anything. Then I watched some explainer videos on YouTube and realized I'm not meant to understand anything. The point seems to be about letting go of any forms or conceptions and just enjoying the nonsense. And then, Yawn Song says it was really important to people that were around the age of the characters when it came out. It's just a kind of time and place thing for a lot of people. And then MJ4LGBTQ, I don't know how to read that, so I'm just going to spell it out. It says, to me, it's mainly about the vibes of growing up and fitting in with crushes, family, friends, and the music fits teenage growing up so well. Also the random comedy and stuff. So that is basically how it kind of like, I think that pretty much nails how it like what they were going for. And like it feels like an important anime even if you don't really get it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Yes.
like I'm not that huge on anime, but like I appreciate the lineage of it. It's like Jesus, you know, it makes me want to go back and watch a bunch of stuff like that, especially ones that you've been mentioning that kind of come and like have helped shape the landscape thanks to Fooly Cooly.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, we just got a troublemaker in the
Yeah.
old chat.
I
so
gotta-
I'm
Yeah.
just trying to...
I gotta bring Jake back in
Jake
eventually
back?
because you did want to hear his.
Yeah, I
take.
want to hear.
I love it
I
because
was gonna say.
he didn't hear any of this context except what I said, and now he
Yeah.
just has to come back in and say things.
Yeah, let's get Jake and see what he says.
Okay. Well, this has been fun, guys. I've missed doing this. I've missed you all.
Aw.
Did you notice that I literally had like the anime heart eyes when you came on?
I
just
know.
like,
It made me so happy. But yeah. In conclusion, I also don't love this show, like Tamor said, but I, especially this time watching it, gained a much greater appreciation for its influence on animation in a way that I couldn't have before necessarily, just because I don't know, I wasn't very old in 2000, so I missed this Toonami boat a little bit. Didn't realize just how much modern anime and modern animation, Western animation as well, draws from Fooly Cooly. So that was really cool to experience and like to think about the show that way. So
Yeah, for sure.
And I give you Jacob Decker.
Bye, Kallie.
Bye,
I love you.
Bye.
What is 9 times 31? Prove I'm not a robot?
What's going on in this chat?
Chuktowski. I don't
that
know,
was
man.
a lot more insightful than what I will ever add to this conversation. So, episode's going downhill from there. I apologize.
What did you
you're
think of it,
welcome
though?
That we got her on. It was probably.
I was so happy.
I was happy. Yeah. What did you make of it, though, Jake?
I really liked the music and I liked the visuals. I wasn't super into what was going on in the story. I think I mean, the joke is that I don't watch or like anime. I mean, I'm sure there's some anime out there that I might like, but this is probably not the one for someone like me to start with.
We'll get you on JoJo.
I mean, it's like telling somebody, "Oh, you love movies. Here, you should watch like David Lynch or something." Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like
I think the other thing.
it's a weird introduction.
Yeah, the other thing I was talking to Kallie about too was that like it felt like a weird show to be reading the subs for, because there was a lot happening on screen. I was also trying to read, plus there was just translation localization issues, and a lot of those things didn't connect to like those like little panel manga segments. Like I had absolutely no clue what was going on in those segments because I was focused on reading text from multiple places, and like I was having issues there. But I also am a shit reader, so.
There was a bit where like the head came off the dad, and I did not understand.
Because it wasn't the dad. It was a robot version of the dad.
I did not get that at all. I was like,
because he finds the dad underneath in the crawl space after looking like a shriveled zombie,
yes,
and then puts him in the bath to rehydrate him.
Yeah.
right.
So like it moves so fast that you can miss
And I was
it.
just like,
And it's framed like a horror movie for like
Yeah,
a couple
yeah,
seconds too. So like they're trying to throw you off there, where you're like, "What, is the dad dead now?" No,
I was like, I don't
okay,
know, the
oh,
dad
it's fine.
sucks.
Yeah,
Like,
there's a whole
God.
period where the dad's being like a massive pervert. And then
Ugh.
Dressed like a
the
Nazi?
Yeah,
At what
yeah.
point?
Oh
It's
boy.
like-
It's
Did
very
not
weird.
expect the Nazi uniform with the
Yeah.
stylized swastika.
Yeah, that definitely took me by surprise.
Yeah, I think like the thing that kind of sums this show up is like, why is it called Furikuri and what does it mean? They kind of say it in the first episode and then they say it in the last episode. Furikuri means nothing. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything. It's just a noise that they just have, and that's kind of the message for like the people that are watching this. Like, don't take it too seriously. Like and like don't take the show too seriously. Don't try and dissect it seriously. Like, and also the things that you are going through and the things that you're probably feeling, don't take that too seriously right now, because it's all weird. And the thing that I really love about it is all the adults in the show are fucking idiots, and they're stupid and they're useless. Some of them are perverted, some of them are like very weird and wrong, and like the whole thing that it's telling you is like, you might just be a kid, but trust us, you're not any worse off than the adults in the world.
Yeah.
Like the adults do not have the answer. Don't try and be an adult, because that's what Naoto's trying to do the entire time. He's like, I need to be an adult. I have responsibilities. I've got to like take care of my Mimi because she has this relationship to my brother, and my dad's a deadbeat, and I got to look after the shop and my granddad, and there's this robot, that Kanti, that I need to like now work with, and it's like the whole responsibility thing is like, don't try and be someone else, just figure out who you are and then go from there. And that's what this entire series is like by the end of it, because there's that moment where he's learning to play baseball properly, and then I think Haru says it, but also Mamimi says it, is like, nothing's gonna happen until you swing. And like that is in the context of that episodes, that is like they're talking about the baseball side of it, but in the context of the show as a whole, Naoto's character and you as someone who might be trying to find some sort of guidance in life, nothing can happen until you swing, as in like do your own thing and take a shot and take a risk and define who you are yourself according to your own thing, and not based on what you think you should do. And once Naoto starts taking that swing, that's when you realize, or not realize, you see him like save the city at the end of that episode. And then by the end of the show, he's drinking coffee from the vending machine as opposed to just sweet drinks, which at the start he constantly tells Mimi, don't give me sour stuff because I only drink sweet stuff, because it's him trying to remain a kid. But yeah, I feel like it's one of those shows that you're like, I think most people will like watch it as a youngster and then be like, that was fun, and then come back to it years and years later and be like unpacking a lot of it. And I would love to know if you like Lucy or Jake, like maybe not you, Jake, because you seem to not really vibe with it at all, but like Lucy, if you watched it like 3 years from now or a year from now again, I wonder if you'd be like, I kind of get it more now, because like now the shock and awe of it is gone. Like you can sit down and like the first 2 episodes were the ones that I had seen before, and even in rewatching those, I was like, I did not pick up on any of this. I thought it was just like weird Japanese Looney Tunes. And I think way more complicated.
Yeah, I think like honestly, I could watch it again now that you and Kallie and Jean-Luc have explained a lot of the significance, because it just like.
It's a lot.
Also for context, like where I'm at the moment, where it's like we're just coming out of February, which has been a really, really busy month. I'm very tired, and I'm at the point where, when you're kind of so tired that you just want to watch, like I'm watching in my spare time, I'm watching Love is Blind. I'm watching The Gilded Age, very like shows that don't require me to think too hard, and I can just kind of sit back and kind of melt into them. Whereas Fooly Cooly is like, I have to be way more engaged and actually like pay attention, and it's difficult when the stuff we've talked about, like not necessarily like just failing to understand cultural jokes, because in terms of the localization, they've maybe been localized for people who have that awareness rather than for me or for Jake, or like, I mean, some of them are still very much references of the time, a very fast-paced plot. And as well, the thing that, I mean, Jake, I struggled with this too. It's like there'd be like multiple people talking, and then like there'd be something on the screen on the top, so I'd have to keep pausing it. And so it's like, for me, it just like required a lot more brain power. But I think now that I have like the baseline understanding, I've also watched it through, so I'm not like trying to keep the plot in my head. I can maybe watch it again and have a deeper understanding of it. So I'm intrigued to do that, but I don't think maybe I would do it right now. Maybe when things are quiet.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 more seasons, so.
Oh, and now 2 more.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. So there's FLCL, Fooly Cooly Progressive, and then Fooly Cooly Alternative, which are 2 more seasons. And
then there's
already
Grunch.
Available. Yeah, Grunch.
Yeah. Which came out in 2018, so like a good 18 years after. I actually haven't seen them, and now I really want to go and watch them, because I am curious, like how they kind of fit the Fooly Cooly vibe, but in like a more modern context. Like what do they kind of change about it to make it fit?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask Tamor, since this was on your initial list of shame, do you plan on going through and watching the other seasons now that you've seen season 1 from start to finish?
I think I'm
Sorry if you
in a
already
similar
talked about
place.
this.
No. I think I'm in a similar place where Lucy is, where I definitely want to see more of it, and I think I will check out the other shows, the seasons. But I think I'll do it at a time when things are less chaotic, if you know what I mean. Like, I feel like my brain is filled with information currently, and this felt like a nuclear bomb of like additional stuff to
A
like
robot.
process
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I was just like, I loved it, but also like could feel my brain like bulging as each scene like carried on, and I was like, oh my god, what's happening? Like once I think like if I took a little break from work and just like decided I'm just gonna sit at home for a couple of weeks and play games and watch TV, I think I could like jump into it and have a great time and like decompress with it. But right now, I think I'll probably just let this one simmer for a little longer and kind of like let it work its way through my brain. And there's parts of it that I still really love. Like I think I'm gonna listen to the soundtrack going forward a lot. There's even like moments like I want to rewatch the series just this first season, just if only to like scroll through and look at the amazing, like there's some real amazing shots of stuff. Like I just want to like screenshot it and like see if there's a print of that out there or something like that. But yeah, I imagine I'll check out the other 2 seasons at some point in the future.
Do you know if the other 2 seasons are as frenetic as these ones?
I think they are, but they don't have the same characters. Like, I don't believe Naoto's in it. I think one of them has like a girl who never takes her headphones off. And I think Haru is in it.
She's the connective tissue, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I will say, like, in terms of rewatching, and I say this purely because we're watching JoJo at the same time. JoJo is a great anime to watch in like 3 episode chunks. Like, and it's kind of like a one where I could watch 1 episode of JoJo, leave it, and come back. I found it really hard to watch Fooly Cooly. Like I could either do it all in one go, but I found it really difficult to just do. I'll just do 1 episode. I'll just do 1 episode. Like it felt like it demands a lot of you, and I feel like you kind of have to really be prepared to just kind of sit and like, okay, I'm gonna spend the 2 hours and just blast through it all.
Yeah, so highs and lows. Lucy, what were your highs? What were your lows?
Highs with music for sure. And like you said, some of I think the part where, you know, Naoto and
Mamimi
were like under that bridge, and there was just kind of those like atmospheric, more like tone shots where no one's really saying anything. And like either she just kind of hugs him, or like she has a cigarette later on as well. It's like no one's saying anything. It's like these moments of respite that I really liked, because it was also, and like MJ makes a great point. Well, it's like the episode with the girl in his class is best to actually put plot to the vibes of the show. Like both kids are crushing on each other, but too awkward to say it, not ready for it. And I think also that works with like the complicated relationship with Mamimi. And I think as well, just like the moments of quiet, which is weird because the rest of the show is so all over the place. Those are my favorite bits. The low is probably just because I'm not as used to seeing anime that horny. I think the stuff with the dad, like, because I didn't have any concept of how old Haru is. So like the fact that she comes in and she like, I thought she was gonna try and get with Naoto, and she kind of does, and then she has that all that stuff with the dad. I was like, oh, I feel uncomfortable here. Like I don't know what's going. I like, not to say that I'm a prude. I just wasn't expecting it. Lot of those old upskirt shots too. And like there was one shot where some girl's underwear like flies off, and I was like,
Yep.
what's happening here? But yeah, I mean, in terms of like a low for me would just be so much going on. But I think honestly, it's kind of like a meet halfway point where it's like times were different, the audience is different, and then there's me approaching it, so it's like definitely a meet halfway kind of low. But yeah, like I mean, like Kallie said, like I think we're all kind of saying is just like, don't think I love it, but I enjoyed it, and I have like a greater appreciation of it.
Yeah. That makes sense. Jake, highs and lows.
I mean, I would mostly echo what Lucy said. I think for me, it was just there was a lot going on, and it was hard to follow what was happening, and a lot of that did feel intentional, which I kind of like. I like when, shows, movies, TV shows, games, or whatever, are a bit more nebulous. But I think for me, just trying to like process what's happening on screen, along with the subs that I'm getting, along with the fact that maybe they aren't localized correctly, to then getting like a translation for me to understand was a bit too much. But I really did like the music. I really did like the animation. There were some episodes that I really did enjoy. The one in particular was with that girl who was the mayor's daughter. I really liked that episode.
I really liked that episode.
I thought that one was quite good. And then I liked the robot with the TV head.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was called. And then the robot that eats cell phones too. That was like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then it just kept growing, and then it just like ate cars and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, I love this.
Jean-Luc.
I think for me, the highs were, outside of what everyone else has already said, just the art direction and the animation is like holds up extremely well. I love the like sort of like pastel color palette that they use a lot. I love just how like elastic the animation is and the characters and it never feels like it loses any like quality to it, or like when the quality does change, it's entirely in service to just making that moment like look as good as possible, or like what it's trying to do, versus like other shows where you're like, more budget, you can kind of tell they had to like cut corners. Like it never felt like that, and I think it has the advantage of being this like 6-episode thing where it can kind of just put its all into everything. So as someone who just loves animation, it's like, yes, this is just a visual feast for the eyes. And then I think watching it now and having kind of like what you were talking about, a lot of like the actual layers of it, where as a kid I didn't follow any of that, and I was just like, wow, the wacky animation and robots and girl with guitar, and now it's like, okay, I can actually kind of start to like understand some of those layers. And then I think for the lows, it's not even a problem with the show, it's more just a problem with me not being Japanese, is that like I could now that I had a better understanding, I could tell there were jokes that I wasn't getting, and I was like annoyed that I wasn't getting them, because I was like, I feel like I would like this even more if I understood some of these very specific references they were making. So that's like not even a problem with the show. That's just more of a like, I'm not part of, I didn't grow up in that culture. I don't understand Japanese. So it's like, I know I would find this a lot funnier, or like I would get it more if I like understood it. So just sort of like,
There was that South Park reference that I did understand, though.
I did.
Sure.
I was like, okay, I'm in.
I was like, I get that one.
So
I also really
there's a
liked
Go
one
on.
thing that I did want to mention. I like that fourth wall breaking stuff about the manga. Pages where they like actually discuss it, and they're like my first reaction when I saw it, and I was like, oh, is it cheaper to do that? And then I found out it wasn't, and then they actually addressed that in the 6th episode, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah. There's an episode where I think it's episode 3 where a car's like trashed by Cunty the robot. And if you look closely, there's a miniature of Kenny from South Park like coming out of it when it gets destroyed. Yeah.
There was a part where he like had his jacket up and he kind of like puffed it, and his eyes were big, and I was like, okay, I get what you're doing.
Yeah, for me, I think like the thing that I loved about it was like actually being able to unpack some of what it was trying to say, and kind of I think it did hit like the chaotic nature of it. I think if I had watched this back in the day, chances are I wouldn't have understood it, but if I did understand it, I think it would have been really beneficial to me, like as someone who's trying to find my place in the world and trying to figure out like what I like, and feeling quite different from other people, and having the pressure of trying to be like someone with responsibilities while also feeling like I don't really like want to behave like everyone else and enjoy the thing everyone else do. But yeah, I really, really like the thematic stuff, and obviously including the music and the animation as well. Like, I think that's really, really impressive. I think the low for me is some of the like weird sexual sexualization of youngsters, or like the weird sexual scenarios that they put
Yeah.
in. Which again, I've been watching anime for as long as I've been alive, and I'm not a prude about any of that stuff. I understand the cultural kind of differences that lead to it, but it still is kind of weird to see like pervy adults and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's easily forgotten. But yeah, I think it's a really impressive show. I don't think it's one we would induct into our Lads on Tour Hall of Fame.
No, I think the vibe is that we're probably not,
Yeah,
unless I'm mistaken.
No. I still think it's like a really cool thing to watch. I do have some trivia for it.
Yeah,
The cat, Nauta's cat, Mew
I
Mew.
love that cat.
The big angry fat looking cat.
Why does it have balls, by the way?
Why not?
Why did it have balls? Who animated the cat's balls?
Same people that animated the balls in Red Dead Redemption 2.
We need the best for this.
Yeah. So the voice for that cat is credited as question mark in the credits, but it's actually the voice of Hideaki Anno, the creator and director of Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Incredible. The
which
big bald
is-
cat.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing. Amaro's eyebrows are actually sheets of nori, dried seaweed that's used in sushi, and that nori was digitally scanned into a computer.
Wait, did they photogrammetry his eyebrows?
His eyes, yep.
Lovely.
They did that. Haruko refers to Naota as Taro-kun. Taro is one of the most generic names for a Japanese boy, and is often used as a placeholder for unidentified Japanese males. It's the Japanese equivalent. Taro is the Japanese equivalent
John
of
Doe.
John Doe. Yeah,
Wow.
pretty
I
much.
didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, the Vespa, as we mentioned, belongs to the director Kazuya Tsurumaki, and apparently he could not get it to work in real life.
Oh, no.
Gainax Studios made this as a break from normal anime, which fans of the series use as an excuse. I'm reading from IMDb here. Excuse for the insanity that occurs, but in actual reality, the show, despite not having a plot, is just plain crazy. Yeah. In episode 2, Haruko fixes her Vespa after crashing it into the medical mechanica factory. Among the parts she installs, she mentions how the parts are really expensive and weird. One of the parts is a Mobile Suit Gundam RX-79 robot model. So she's installing a Mobile Suit Gundam into her Vespa.
Very good, very good.
And then in the second episode, Naoto tells Haruko that the reason his dad is so weird is because he wrote an Eva book. The show he's talking about, of course, is Neon Genesis Evangelion, series made by the same animation studio. It's a tongue-in-cheek reference to the confusion the final 2 episodes caused when they first aired, and the whole thing is like his dad used to be successful, and then he watched the end of Evangelion, the actual end of the original series, wrote a book theorizing, and because it was so confusing, it kind of drove him mad, and he became like washed up because of it. And the reason he's a deadbeat is because he wrote basically fan theory on Evangelion,
I love that so
That's so
much.
good.
Amazing.
which is pretty incredible. But yeah, there you have it. Furikuri. Furikuri.
Goody.
Moving on from that, yeah, anyone got any recommendations? Weekly
Me.
recommendations for things to check out? Go on, Lucy.
We watched Turning Red last night, and it is great. I had a blast. It's on Disney Plus. It's about a young girl called Mei Mei. She's like 13, and she's like at that stage of life where she's also in a very kind of strict family. Like, she wants to do well by her parents. She's a really high achiever, and her family's quite traditional. Like, they run a temple up in Toronto. And then, yeah, she turns 13 and also, has a crush, wants to go see a boy band, and it's about her. It's like a commentary on like girls going through puberty, but also like the relationship with her mom and her mom's expectations, and how it's also like through the family generations, like they've always had such high expectations on the daughters, and it's like and also she turns into a big red panda, which is like. But honestly, it's like the new Pixar. It's wonderful. It's so well written, and like I saw a lot of people message like, "Oh, you've never talked." Like the people who have been complaining about it, are kind of like, "Oh, this movie isn't for me" or whatever. But it's like, as someone who grew up painfully awkward and like trying to be an overachiever, and you know, watching this film, it was like, oh my god, they've really managed to capture what it's like to be a teenage girl. And not to say that you won't enjoy it if you did not grow up a teenage girl. I think you might just have like an extra layer of appreciation. I think anyone who grew
Yeah.
up and was awkward as a teen will.
We lost.
Oh.
There she is. There she goes.
I watched it last night too. It was really good, even as someone
Yeah.
who didn't grow up as a awkward teenage girl. I did grow up as an awkward teenage boy though, and I was still
Relate
able
to it?
relate to it. Oh, she's back.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah, I was gonna say I completely dispel that notion that you need to like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
have to relate to
that was
something
the-
to enjoy it. Like
That
I
was
think
the
that's
shitlord excuse. Like,
It
that
well,
they were
it
throwing
is, but
around.
I think that's insane idea. Like and if that's how you go into consuming like media, like you're never gonna get out of your comfort zone and like, you know, see things that are outside
Yeah.
of your own scope.
No.
Anyway, it doesn't matter because the movie is just so dang good that like you'll enjoy it no matter what. It's really good.
Yeah.
Beautiful animation. I
Yes.
love Pixar has gotten real weird and experimental with a lot of their animation now in a way that I like the cartoony like humans in you know, Turning Red to me are like infinitely more interesting than the like trying to be realistic humans of like Toy Story 4 or whatever. Like I'm just like I find that boring. Like they're like look how realistic like they look and I'm like no, give me like weird cartoony like button zipper mouth like teeth and yeah, really good movie.
Although, one thing that threw me off is that the mom didn't have a fat Pixar ass.
Oh no.
I
They
mean,
finally
like,
caught on.
it's like that's their thing, right? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It's
Thick,
probably
thick
for the
Pixar
best.
moms.
Yeah.
Well, it was Sandra Oh who played the mum, right? Maybe she wasn't aware. Maybe we could have a petition and be like, Sandra, they did
No,
your
don't
character
don't tell the
dirty.
internet that because
Yeah, don't.
it
We
was
don't do
really
that
good
petition.
though. I enjoyed it a lot. I think.
Is that your recommendation as well?
Actually, no. My recommendation is Tunic. Because I don't think we've talked about
I have
it
it
yet.
downloaded.
And I started it a couple days ago, like right after I wrapped up Elden Ring. I'm gonna go back to Elden Ring, but I was like, I'm gonna take a break and play Tunic. But it is so charming. It's so exploration focused in a way that is so much fun. And the way you collect like your little instruction booklet, and then how
God.
the letters sort of translate over time and stuff. I think is, I think it's a so far from what I've played. I think it's a brilliant little game that doesn't seem like it's getting overlooked. It seems like a lot of people are playing it, but I think there initially there was that fear, right, that it was like, oh, are people going to play this because everyone's pretty invested in Elden Ring? But it seems like it's getting a lot of attention, and it's very well deserved. It'll be weird not seeing it at shows anymore, though, because you know.
Yeah, because it's been such a
it's been,
mainstay
yeah.
for years.
It's funny that around the time Tunic comes out, most conventions just die. So it's like,
Yeah.
conventions live for as long as Tunic was in development.
Yeah, that in 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that.
But yeah,
Jean-Luc,
Tunic is very good.
what's your weekly recommendation?
Well, in addition to recommending both Turning Red and Tunic, 'cause they're both fantastic, I was going to go on the anime train, and I was going to recommend Great Pretender, which we're wrapping up. We're on the last 2 episodes right now. Kind of been a slow burn for us watching it, but that is a excellent anime about a group of con artists who con like, you know, just complete scumbags out of their money, and so it's kind of segmented into little tiny arcs that I think are about 4 or 5 episodes each, and each one's like about them specifically conning this person, and then they kind of move on. But there is sort of this overarching character narrative throughout, and then the second season is a much longer arc that is sort of like the culmination of everything it's been building up to. It's really, really good. It's got a gorgeous animation style. It's got some just like immediately charming and lovable characters. And if you like that sort of like Ocean's 11 heist kind of vibes, you know, like here's just a bunch of really charming characters who are kind of giving these people their comeuppance, you'll have such a good time with it. I think it's quite excellent.
I'm excited to check it out. My recommendation is a book called The House in the Cerulean Sea.
Oh, did you read it too?
I've started reading it, yeah.
Oh, it's like we have a weekly group who gets together and like everyone has started to read it. So I'm like,
Yeah,
oh.
it's really, really good. Like, it's
Okay.
really, really good. It's like I don't want to say too much about it, but it's just about this guy who's like a bit of not a deadbeat, but like his lot in life isn't great. His name's Linus, and he exists in a world where there's like magical children and that kind of stuff. And things happen, and he's basically investigating this place where there's a kind of a bunch of like orphan misfits and their caretaker, and he's like looking into what's really going on in that island. And it's a really like charming, really wholesome, cozy read, if you get what I mean. Remember that kind of feeling that you had back in the day when you were like sitting down to read something like Harry Potter, where it's like, I'm going to be whisked away into a different world that is like nice and wholesome, and there's going to be a little bit of danger, a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of mystery, but ultimately you'll come away feeling like happy and enchanted to a degree. It has that vibe to it without the wrong and righter behind it. But yeah, I've been enjoying it. So I started reading it and I really liked it, and I liked it so much that I slowed down how much I was reading, because I could like really savor it. So I'm like reading one chapter and then like giving it a day, and then reading another chapter and then giving it a day. It's like genuinely nice, and it's quite chunky. I bought the actual physical book. It's quite chunky, but like it's one of those breezy reads where you're like, you'll read a chapter and realize, oh, I'm like a decent chunk into this book already. It's like I can't recommend it highly enough. Especially if you also like, if you're one of those people who is like, I really want to get back into reading, or I really want to start reading. This is a great starting book because it's a breezy read. It's currently very popular, so you can be part of the conversation. And also like it's like a chunky book as well, so when you're done with it, you'll feel like, oh, I really like, I got through that. And there's a decent chance like come the end of the year when people are talking about their favorite books of the year, this will be in them, so you'll be able to have that conversation with them as well. So like I can't recommend it highly enough.
I might go to Target later today and see if they've got it.
Oh, that's what I'm
They will
doing.
definitely have it.
Going
They
to
will
Target.
definitely.
I mean, it's also just an excuse to go to Target. Oh no!
Yeah, I got this like last week or something.
Yeah.
And I bought it at like one of the Amazon stores, so I'm part of the problem. But I did see it in Target yesterday when I was there to buy
Good.
an Amazon product.
I think getting it at Target is a whole lot more ethical than Amazon, so you know.
Listen,
Well, which corporation am I gonna get my money
yeah,
to?
late stage capitalism. There's no escape. But yeah, there you have it. Our recommendations for the week. Thank you everyone for tuning in for this episode. Just to break things down for where we're gonna go from here. I believe in 2 weeks' time we will be talking about a little video game called Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Zach is so excited about this one, by the way.
Bet he is.
He's
I
so
am too.
excited about it.
Yeah.
Zach? Metroidvania? What?
Yeah.
Seems improbable to me, but you know.
One thing I do want to point out, I think you're probably about to get to this tomorrow, is that because of the delay we had, so in 2 weeks it'll be Castlevania, and then I think that means everything is going to get bumped.
By
week,
2 weeks.
I think. Cause
for sure.
Yeah, so I'm going to update the schedule. I'll post it on the thing, but we're going to continue the every other week cadence, but it just kind of moves things around a little bit. But I really appreciate the patience. Had a little bit of a family emergency last weekend and was not able to record. But
the timeline and the plan is a guide more than a concrete promise at this
Pencil
point.
rather than pen.
Yeah, life is weird and wacky.
That's the rejected name for Life is Strange.
Exactly, we're having none of that. But yeah, so we'll be back in 2 weeks with Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I might try streaming it on one of my streams at some point soon. I've played that game a bunch of times, so I probably won't need to finish it again, but I do want to dip back in. But yeah. Lucy, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Lucy James Games on everything. Probably not doing that many streams this week because it's GDC, and also we have noted international troublemaker Simon Cardy staying with me and Tam. Sent between the two of us like divorced parents, with his little bag and his little marmalade sandwiches. So I'll be back the week after. I'm still streaming Resident Evil Remake. And also you can find me GameSpot, Giant Bomb, podcasts, services.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Jake?
You can find me on anything at Jacob Deck, but also there's another podcast I do with Matt Padgett and another friend I have called Nuclear Fridge. So check that out. We kind of just talk about bullshit. We talked about getting drunk last time. So it's great highbrow content. But one thing I do want to bring up too is that if there's any questions like you folks listening have, like that you want to ask for some of these upcoming games, but you're not able to tune into the stream, we also have an email that you can send emails to. I don't think we've ever plugged it, and I thought about it earlier today. But it's just ladsontourteam@gmail.com. So if
I forgot that we have it.
yeah, I mean, I remember because I have to log in to it to get the code in order to log into Twitch properly. But if you're going to miss a live stream, or if you only like listening to the podcast, but you have a question you really want to ask, or like insight you really want to give for something coming up, feel free to shoot an email to ladsontourteam@gmail.com. Remember, it's team, not crew. Yeah, that's the main thing I wanted to plug.
Amazing. Jean-Luc?
You can find me on Twitter at Jean-Luc Seipke. Not that I really tweet much, but I assume a good chunk of you are familiar with the GameSpot After Dark podcast, and if you're not, you should go check that out, because that's also a very good podcast that I do with Lucy and Tam and Jordan and other people from the GameSpot staff as well that we get on. It's a good time. We talk about video games sometimes, occasionally.
Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah. I'm at TomorH on Twitch, Twitter, pretty much everywhere. I'm probably not going to be streaming that much this week as well because of the whole GDC Simon Cardi thing. But yeah, I've been
Cardi
playing...
incident.
But I have been playing a bunch of games. I think I might try streaming Stranger of Paradise. I also started playing
Kill some chaos?
Yeah, I also started playing Vampire Survivors, which is extremely good. It is super good. It's a $3 game, and it's like very, very simple. But oh my god, so I've been playing it on my Steam Deck before bed, and I've been enjoying it quite a bit. But yeah, I'll probably stream Stranger of Paradise and a bit of that next week. But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Remember to hit the follows on everywhere and tell your friends about us so we can grow. And we will see you in a couple of weeks for Symphony of the Night.
Hell yeah.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
See y'all. And thank you, Jean-Luc.
Thanks,
thank
Jean-Luc.
Thank you, Jean-Luc. Yeah.